Okay, so I hope this works for everyone. I did film it before, but it was in the daytime and there was a heap of glare on the screen, so I've come out at night to try and do a better job. Now, the ones that I use, you can't see, so what I'll do is I'll link them down below in the little comment section or something like that, and you can use those adapters if you so wish. This is my Android head unit, the same Android head unit I keep recommending for everyone, just because it's brilliant for this and a fair few other things. So getting started, you can see that I've already got my Wi-Fi adapter in by that little Wi-Fi symbol up there, and it's already connected to the V-Link adapter. So that's just plugged in and we're all good to go. Now, every time you boot up, it won't automatically connect. There is a way that you can set it, but I don't recommend it because you're not going to be using it all the time. So how you connect is just this little power plug fella up here, and you just use him. And then what it'll do is it'll run through all the systems. As I said, I use the V-Gate adapters just off eBay. They're under 50 bucks. They've got a really good latency, especially Wi-Fi. There is a thing with Android and iOS, like iPhones versus Android phones. In regards to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, it used to be that Apple could only use Wi-Fi adapters, but I think Apple can use Bluetooth adapters now. Not 100% sure if that's changed because I've switched to Android. So as you can see, everything's all connected there and we are good to go. Now what we'll do is we'll go into the dashboard, because that's where all your gauges and stuff are. Now what I'll do is I'll set this, so I'll go back a sec, there we go. So the little settings icon is the fellow that you're going to want to go here. Now you're really only for the most part going to need your PCM. So that's your mind blank, that's your power control module. So then you'll want to add gauges. You'll want to add what you want to see. So stuff that I recommend, just scrolling through this, exhaust back pressure, you want him, and set it in PSI, bar, whatever you're most familiar with. For most people that'll be PSI, so you're going to want to tick that. Engine coolant temperature, do not bother if you have an auto, do not bother at all. I'm not sure what data it pulls from and then gives you a wild estimate, but it is a very wild estimate. Like, I will be sitting at 80 degrees, this thing will be saying 120s. Just ignore that fella. Engine oil temp you do want 100%, so engine oil temperature. Same deal, Celsius, Fahrenheit, but we're in Australia, so it's all Celsius. Keep scrolling down. I'll just pick a few. Gear commanded, that's handy if you want to check your shift times. So from when the ECU says shift to when you actually shift, you should be within about sort of 2 seconds. That's well within factory specs, and that's a pretty healthy time. IAT if you want, that's your intake air temperature. ICP and ICPV, do both. If you're going to monitor one, do both. ICP is the commanded ICP, that's what the ECU wants. The ICPV is what is actually being read. So just remember them. IPR is the same deal. If you want ICPs, you might as well have IPR. A lot of these can give you early warning signs of future maintenance, future issues, etc. Reasons why stuff's not working, for example, or why your truck's behaving the way it is. Your map sensor, so it's technically a boost sensor. However, I'd recommend running the standalone boost. Run the Defi gauge. What I'll do another video on my little Defi gauge unit, and just a quick run through on that, and I'll link that as well. So if anyone wants to buy that, it's like you can monitor a heap of stuff, and it's a really small little gauge. It's only about this big, but I'll do that one in the daytime. Just keep on rolling through. I may have missed some that I won't particularly use, but what I'll do is I'll show you how to quickly do it. Per dels, so this is the percentage delta for the injectors, so how much extra fuel an injector needs to maintain idle. You'll see 358, they'll often be pretty high. Sort of anything under 5% is kind of okay, but you ideally want it as low as you can. RPM, blah, 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 you don't really need that. So here's a good one. Torque converter clutch solenoid, so you want him. So what you can do is you can change your driving so you're not fully into the throttle as the converter's trying to lock up and putting load on it. So what you can do is you can put light load on it while it locks, and then after it locks you can put your foot back down. So that's a good way to keep your transmission temps cooler when you're driving. Torque converter slip actual and desired. So desired is commanded, actual is what it actually reads. So that's handy to tell the health of your clutch solenoid, torque converter, etc., especially when you're driving. So what we're going to do is we're going to select both of them. And transmission fluid temp, well, I just hit the wrong button there. And then, because it is 11:30 at night, I won't really start the truck at the moment, wake the misso up, but we'll just say that'll do for now. So once you've got all of them in, and we'll just pick another couple, we'll just pick map, just cause. Where's pulse width? We'll do pulse width. No, fuel, F, pulse width. So your pulse width is another one. So that shows how long your injector pulse is open for. So if you're trying to drive for economy and stuff like that, you can learn the behaviours of your tuner if you use one, etc. There's a lot of things that you can do just by monitoring these while you're driving to get a better understanding of what's going on with your truck. So once that's all done, just hit back. There they all are. So if we hit back again, there's all those gauges. Now just say we don't like the order we're in, or you can zoom in and out and make them as big as you want. Select data tables. So that's a table. That's the dashboard with the gauges. So I'm just going to zoom in to make it a bit bigger. There we go. So I don't like the order that they're in. I want the gear down here, I want my transmission fluid temp, you know, a bit further up, etc. So what you do is you then go back into settings, scroll down, then there's these three little lines here. Right, so I want, that's how you change your values and stuff like that, and I've picked the wrong map sensor, so there's two to get it running. I want it to look just like this all the time, but I want to be able to switch between different ones. So what you're going to do there is you're going to go into the settings again, the three little dots, and you're going to save it. Now call it something like daily profile, etc. As you can see, I've got all sorts of different ones, and what that'll do is that'll save that lot of settings into a file that you can just load. So you can then just go open and pick which one you want, and I'll just go daily, back, play, and there's my daily one that I always run. So there's my ICPs in a row, my transmission fluid temp, my oil temp, everything's in a row, everything's nice and big, and that's sort of what I use just on like lighter sort of duties. Now if I go back into here and I go PCM and I go all, what that'll do is that will give me absolutely everything out of every computer that I want. So that's the same deal. I just went through, added what I wanted, ticked them all, put them in the order I want, and then I clicked on this little button up here and I went save, and then as I've come back in here I can just go boom, open it up, and now I've got a heap more stuff. So that's basically setting up gauges in Forscan. So I'll just quickly stop that, go back to here, go to PCM. It will give you a warning saying, oh, if you select all, it could create latency, but it doesn't really, so don't worry about it. Just select what you want. And new settings. open. Daily. I'm just putting my settings back on there. That's all that is. Play, and I'll zoom in. Stop. Play, and there we go. Now, let's go into tests. So, as I said, that's how to set up multiple ones. So if you want to set up one for towing where you're monitoring a fair bit of stuff, etc. Off-roading, you want to make sure your computer's staying off-road if you've got dodgy issues or you're trying to diagnose stuff. There's 1,000 things that these gauges can be used for if you just use your head and think about it, and you can go from there. Now, going into tests. So, some good ones. So, KOEO, key on, engine off. This one's pretty obvious as well now that you know that. KOER, key on, engine running. So, injector self-test, that's what's commonly referred to as a buzz test. That buzzes all 8 injectors, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 individually. Cylinder contribution test, once again that goes back to the Purdell thing. So if you've got a value a little high, it can flag it, but the reason why, like number 8 can pop up, and it pops up on perfectly healthy engines, that's just how it can be. Cell switch just goes through gems. No, it doesn't go through gems, it goes through everything else. And then your gems is your gem's got everything in it, so your full drive, aircon, all that sort of stuff, that all goes through your gem. Service functions, don't have to worry too much about that unless you really want to. Settings applications. So, metric, instrument color. Now you can select whatever you want here, so you can have them all the same if you like that sort of look, and you can do all this on your phone too. It's the exact same app. So if you're having issues with connection, this is where you go to. You go to Forscan, you make sure your adapter's plugged in, and you can see it, and then up here is where you'll go to your connections. So if I was to switch to my Bluetooth adapter, it's obviously not connected because I don't run it, or on the Wi-Fi one. However, if you want to go through there and select which adapter it is, if you've got a few Bluetooth devices to your phone, that's where you do it. Enable Bluetooth, same deal. Your Wi-Fi stuff won't matter, your adapter will automatically do that with your phone, and that's sort of a really basic thing of yeah, you can see all that sort of stuff. Yeah, riffraff one didn't work there, and my batteries have died because I've been lazy not using my phone. So if when you get a table, you can select that there if that's easier for you to read, and then what the graph will do is the graph will actually map out with history what you're using, but generally the dashboard, and if you just tap any gauge, it'll just go back to the big screen. Now, just say you've been driving for ages, you've just done a really big hilly range, and you've had dickheads in front of you and behind you, and you couldn't really pay attention to the gauges because you were paying attention to the road. So when you are finished and you pull up, before you turn the car off, hit stop, and it'll come up, and what you can actually do is then you can save it. So you can save, it will data log the entire journey from when you connected Forscan to the end, it will data log the entire lot. And so what you can then do in Excel, because it just comes out in a CSV, is you can go through and pinpoint exactly what's sort of happening with what's happening. If that makes sense. If you're into that sort of thing, or your mechanic's into that sort of thing, you can be like, hey, I've got a data log of what was happening when I was driving, when it started coughing and spluttering and stuff like that. So, but that does depend on what gauges you've actually got selected. So yeah, so that's the basics. I'll do a video for the laptop, I'll do a video for the gauges that I use, I'll do probably, I don't know, a video just about my truck and my setup and all that sort of stuff, and what I've picked and why I've picked it, if you're interested. And yeah, so as I said, I'll do Forscan laptop, Defi, my truck itself, and yeah, I'll run through stuff with the laptop one, like how to, you know, correct your speedo. And there's a heap, well, it's not a heap compared to other Powerstrokes, but there's a fair bit with the 7.3 that you can actually sort of do and play around with and diagnose yourself. I see a lot of people not really being able to diagnose stuff, and like such a simple tool, like it's $50, under $50, $50 or under, whatever, for the adapter. And I think this, like the app on Android and iOS, like for your phone or your Android head unit, I can do a video on that too if you want. The Android head unit, just say so. And you can do so much for such a little outlay that'll give you a lot of peace of mind, and yeah, it'll give you a lot of peace of mind and a lot more ability to actually correctly diagnose your truck if you're having issues, or if you're curious, or suddenly you think that something's a bit off and stuff like that. You can actually just run these, get used to the data values, and see, my truck's not even on. It reckons, oh no, it's 9 degrees, never mind. Yeah, so I'll upload this now, and I'll post it on the group, and yeah, whatever you want to know, or videos or anything like that, how I've got my solar and my deep cycle, it's lithium deep cycle, but you know, anything you want like that, just, you know, let me know and I'll do a video and you can get some ideas or do what you want. Righto, cheers for that, bye.